to the Authentic Kitchen. We're going to be making ratatouille this week, kind of a more rustic style. And so let's take a look at our ingredients. So first of all, you're going to need one large globe eggplant. Ours are kind of small, so we're going to use 2. You'll need 1 medium yellow onion. You'll need some pepper and some salt, 2 zucchini squash, 2 pounds of tomatoes, which is about 4 medium-sized tomatoes. You'll need some paprika, some dried thyme, or a sprig of fresh thyme if you have it, and some dried rosemary. You also need 2 bell peppers, any color of your choice. Ours are red and green. You'll need 6 cloves of garlic that we're going to mince up, a little bit of red wine vinegar, and about ½ cup of red wine. And if you don't have red wine, you can substitute water, that's fine. You'll need some olive oil and some kosher salt for salting the eggplant. And for our equipment, we'll need a wooden spoon for stirring the stew, a tablespoon measure, a teaspoon measure, a ½ cup measure, your chef knife and cutting board, and then a heavy-bottomed pot or a Dutch oven. So really quickly, when you're cooking with eggplant, it's really important to salt it first. Eggplant is a very porous vegetable. It has a lot of air and water pockets in it. And when you're cooking the raw eggplant, those pockets of air tend to soak up the oil and make it really greasy. So it's helpful when you cut it up to salt it, because the salt will draw the moisture out of the eggplant via osmosis. And as the water comes out, those cells behind it will collapse, leaving less air pockets. And the less air pockets there are, the less oil will be absorbed into your eggplant, and you'll get a much better texture. So let's cut it up and salt our eggplant. So when your eggplant is cut up, put it into a colander, and you can use either table salt or kosher salt. In fact, table salt would be better because it's finer and it will coat more of the eggplant. But generally you'd want to put about a teaspoon of salt onto your eggplant. I'm just going to eyeball it. And then you just want to mix it together so it coats all the pieces of eggplant. And you want to put this in your sink and let it drain for 20 to 30 minutes. So the first thing we're going to cook is our onions. We're going to take this and dice it up pretty fine. Next, we're going to cut up our bell peppers into about bite-sized pieces. Next, we're going to chop our zucchini squash, and we're going to cut off the end and maybe cut it in half to make them more manageable pieces. And you're going to cut it in half lengthwise, and then you're just going to cut them into about half-inch, half-moon shapes. our last vegetable, the tomato, we're just going to dice this up and add it to the bowl with the zucchini. Next up, we're just gonna mince our 6 cloves of garlic. So when your eggplant is done, you'll be able to see a little bit of water on the surface of the eggplant. It won't necessarily be draining out the bottom. Depending on how much salt you used, you can rinse it off if you'd like, or you can just take a paper towel and pat some of it dry and try to get some of the extra moisture out. So now we're ready to start cooking our stew, and we're going to start by pouring 2 tablespoons of olive oil into the pot and sauteing our onions in it. So I'm going to pour 2 into there, and we'll put the heat on to medium. So there's so many different textured vegetables in Ratatouille. We're going to cook some earlier than others. So we're going to start with our onions. We're going to put these into our hot oil and cook them until they're translucent. Once your peppers are nice and soft, we can go ahead and add our cut up bell peppers. And we're going to saute those for about 4 minutes until they're a little soft. So right after you add your vegetables, you're going to add in your herbs. So we have a teaspoon of dried rosemary. And if you want to break it up a little bit, because it can be kind of hard to bite into one of those, you can do that. We'll add in a teaspoon of dried thyme. And if you have fresh thyme, go ahead and add in 2 sprigs of that. And we're going to finish off with a teaspoon of sweet paprika. We're also going to add in our garlic. And finally, we're going to have our ½ cup of red wine. And again, if you don't have any red wine, you can just use water. I'm just going to put a little bit of liquid in there. And we're going to mix this and let the tomatoes release the juice and until there's a liquid stock for the soup. And also we're going to let the alcohol boil off of the red wine. So once your vegetables have broken down a little bit and there's some liquid in the bottom of the pot, you can go ahead and turn up the heat to high and bring that to a boil. Alright, so once our stew is boiling, we can reduce the heat down to low, cover, and cook for 20 minutes. So it's been simmering for 20 minutes with the top on, and it's looking really nice. If you would like kind of a less watery ratatouille, you can go ahead and leave the lid off a little bit and let some of that moisture boil off, or you can move on to the next step. Okay, so when you're ready for the final step, we're just gonna put in a tablespoon of red wine vinegar and a drizzle of olive oil. Go ahead and put on salt and pepper to taste and some fresh basil leaves for garnish if you want, and enjoy. So good.